Software.
Welcome back everybody to another small tutorial about how to make mods for Hydroneer. Let me just start up by saying that the last video included how to set up the software and everything that concludes that you need for making mods. I want to make sure that you all guys know that I'm doing it from my point of view. So the setup, I did it like it worked for me. However, I got some complaints in between about people saying, yeah, but you are skipping a step and that's to extract files. So in this case, I'm gonna add it to this video saying that if you cannot build it straight from the uproject file by opening it in Visual Studio, simply right click the file and then click extract the solution stuff. There is a option for it. Anyways, when you do, it will extract files and you get a solution file and you open that one and you build like I told in tutorial. At least that's an extra step. I didn't need to do it with my setup, but if it doesn't work for you, what I explained in the first video, that's a solution you can use. Now, without further ado, let's start up. So I'm gonna start the Unreal Engine. And start by thinking of a name. Well, in this case, I'm going into the HTML folder, hooks, and there is an example mod file over here. You can copy this mod file without issue. It implements the same thing and it has the base features in there. Then we are gonna rename it to whatever we want to call our mod. Let me try tutorial mod as name. Remember the name, you need it later on. Simply double click it and you're getting into the example file. Basically everything is explained here, but I will go over them very quickly. If you have items and such that you want to spawn once, you can do it on the game start event. This is also very important that if you do it inside this event, you can spawn in items once without duplicating stuff along the way. Especially with store items, if you spawn them using your own actors and such, it's very important to do that on a game start and not in any other event due to the dupe glitching that occurs due to it. Then we have this one over here. This is how you add items to be spawned using creative options. So in this case, it's register items. Basically, everything you make as custom items, you can add using the mod elements list over here. You can see here 0, which is a mod item, and then you simply select the class you want to add as an item. And you can keep on repeating that with more items that you include in your mod. For example, if you make 3 different pipe types, you can add them all 3 in here to be able to be spawned using creative menu. Simply click it and select the item class that we are talking about. Otherwise, click the add element and another one appears for the second item to be added. We come back here later when I've made an example product or item. By the way, you can always alter these types of things by clicking the trash can or right clicking the item, I believe, to delete it. So that's something worth noticing. Good. Next one is store items. If you do not build your own pre-made store setup or something, or you want to spawn an item inside another one's store, you can do that. Simply add it to the store items menu, and you can see over here we got some more options than the other one. In this case, you select the item to spawn. Make sure that you select the correct one. Then you select the location where it should spawn, the rotation, and how big it should be when it spawns. Keep in mind, the size of the project will not change with it. So if you spawn something on a scale of 2, you see it as scale of 2 in the store, but once you pick it up, it should be the normal size, at least in my testing. So those are the settings that you are going to use to spawn in the store item in the store. If you want the coordinates, you can use the F6 button in the menu to find out the coordinates. The rotation must be found through trial and error because, well, the floor location is lower and the rotation is different than in-game. Since when we are looking, for example, north, we get a different output, and over here we have the X, Y, Z output instead of one value. So worth remembering. Then you have the mod startup. This is handy for GUIs or visualizations on the screen. Very important, very handy. So for example, you can say that the mod started by using the right log functionality. So those are things to note. When you click on this laptop over here, you can see here the mod info. And you need to rename this one like you want to call it before. Like we renamed the file differently. So in this case, tutorial mod. That's what I called it. And the hook name is called exactly the same. So that's what I have done. It should be a workshop mod, just to be clear. You have this option over here. If we want to spawn store mod items using the register store items, you keep it enabled. You can also disable it. Well, you do not need to. Even if you do not use the store items, you can just leave it as it is. Do not touch anything else here. It's not really needed to touch those things. So that's it for the hook itself. Just a small little thing to add. If you take a look at the tutorial mod over here, it should be the hook name, so I forgot to add the BP before it. Just keep in mind this should be the same name as the file where you coded into. So that's the hook name. My mistake on the last part. Good. Now that we are set up, long-lived screenshots. Now that we are set up, there is a mods folder, and if there isn't, create one. Very important. This is where you're gonna make your own custom items. Very important, very handy to use. Like I have all my parts of my main MKia plugin, for example. I separate them for now. Maybe in the future I will split them out. Anyways, we create a new folder inside of here and call it the same like we did before, so we can recognize it. You can name it whatever you want, just to be clear about what you're doing. When going into here, there is another empty folder, and what I normally used to do is create folders called items, a folder called textures, and a folder called meshes. Why I'm doing this is to keep things clean, because in the end, when you have a lot of items that are being thrown into the mod itself, it becomes messy if everything is here in the same folder. Beside that one, what I also always do is go into the folder, and with each item I create its own folder for the textures in this case. So many textures are based on two different types of files. The image files that create the layers and a material file that calls the material. I'm going to explain that one later on as well. Anyways, what we are going to do today is create a custom build item. So in my case, I'm going to make a blueprint class file. And over here we do BP parent. And then we're going to see a lot of things we can hook into as a parent. In my case, I'm going to choose parent build because we are making a buildable item. I select it, and then I'm going to give it a name. Tutorial, lowercase, green concrete. That's what I'm going to call it. Directly you will see a gold nugget exist and a star on the left bottom. The star in this case will notify you that it's not saved yet. You can do two things. Either you're going to start editing it directly, but what I normally used to do, because sometimes my IDE crashes with some editing stuff, I click on save all first and then click save selected. And then it's saved, the asterisk is gone, and we're going to start working on this one. So over here we have a gold nugget. This is the viewport. In the viewport you will see whatever it's gonna look like in game. including any collision boxes or something that is needing for some mod items. For example, pipes use collision to detect the flow of water through it. Same for the logic cables and those things. Although I do need to warn, a lot of things in this community pack with blueprints is not complete. So some blueprints are not parroted correctly and others are missing components that they do need to function out. And while it can be very frustrating when it's missing, either you ask the community for a little bit of help to get going, or you skip that item and do it later on, or you skip it completely. It just totally depends on what type of coder you are. So first things first, we want to make a floor. A concrete floor. So in this case, I'm clicking on static mesh here, which is the main looks of the item itself. It's the gold nugget in this case. And I'm clicking here on concrete. And then you can see a lot of meshes. In this case, I'm going to click the large concrete foundation. And when I do, the camera changes. As you can see here, this is the large concrete floor from the game. Looks nice, isn't it? Now we have the concrete. Now basically we can export this and we have concrete block for ourselves. But that's not fun really, is it? Over here we can see a texture. It's called the M lowercase large concrete floor. Basically the M stands for material. And it uses its own textures over here. So we're not going to do anything with this at the moment. I'm going to showcase over in a few moments what you can do with this. Anyways, there's one last thing we need to do over here, and that's going to the main ball here, the white ball, the sphere, and go over here. If you want to make it sellable in the store, you can set a price here. For example, 500 for a piece of concrete. What do we want to call it? Green concrete. That's what I'm going to call it as name. The name is visible in game. Same for the description. That's mostly on the left bottom of the screen. It's concrete, but it's green. Very nice. The spawn type is standard. Keep it standard. Same for the build item here, which is going to say that it's an item to be built. And most other things I do not touch. However, there is a way that you can use this toggle over here. And when you do, you can rotate it literally every way you want it to. I currently do not do it for this example. All the other stuff you can once again ignore if you do not want to use it. You can alter some things like drop sounds and those things, but I don't think it's really needed. It's been overridden by the parent itself. So click save, compile, and then save again. At least that's my way of making sure it's correctly saved. Now we are going out of it. And now we have a blueprint here, which looks like a block of concrete. Very good. Now what? Well, what I mostly do is go into content and go into meshes. And you can see here all kinds of folders where you can get meshes from. If you're making custom items, you can find most items here that you can remake into something else. So in this case, we have the concrete foundation over here that we used before. But since we do not want a duplicate mesh, since the mesh stays the same, I'm going to ignore this part for the rest for now. But you can use this to combine multiple other actors together to make something unique if you do not like modeling yourself. So for example, you can make a fancy table over here with a golden head statue on top of the table as one mesh. So those are meshes. Meshes are basically the 3D objects that you can put a skin on and use in game. Then we are going to go to the materials or the textures. Well, in this case I'm going to materials because there are the textures. I'm going to type in concrete. And you can see over here we have the large concrete floor. I'm going to open it. And you can see 3 different layers visible over here. We have a normal map. We have the base color map, and we have the RGB map. Basically, it's an ARM map. Ambient occlusion, roughness, and metallic. So basically, RGB is the same as ARM. That's an easy to remember thing. ARM. R, ambient occlusion, G, roughness, B, metallic. As simple as it is. The thing what it does is this one gives it the color and the looks. The normals are, I believe, bright and darkening layers. I do never use normals currently. And then you have this one, and this is basically using colors to show where the occlusion occurs, where the texture is rough, and when it's metallic and glossy, basically. So yeah, these three together make whatever we want to make. So since we want to make a green concrete, I'm gonna copy these ones. These three ones I'm gonna copy, and I'm gonna close this screen. Then I'm gonna go back to the tutorial mod, into textures, and I'm gonna create a material over here and call it tutorial mod green concrete texture. Green concrete. Basically, every maker of mods does it their own way, and I'm doing it this way. Anyways, I'm gonna paste them here, so we get the same textures over here like before. And we are gonna connect them just like before. The normal map to the normal one, the R to the occlusion, the G to the roughness, the B to the metallic. But before I'm gonna apply the concrete texture itself, I wanna make it green. So in my case, I'm gonna blend it. And I'm gonna do it with an overlay. Blend overlay is basically a way to lay another layer over this texture with another texture or color. So in this case, I'm gonna put a color. So I'm gonna take a vector and I'm scroll all the way to the top, and you can see constant refactor. When I click on it, I'm getting a color palette on the left and over here. I'm gonna connect the RGB to the base texture because, well, this is the texture that we want to color change. And this texture I'm gonna put into the blend V3. And if you take a look at the left, it's changed to fully black. Very spectacular. And then when I connect it to here, you're gonna see it's still black, but you can see a little bit of a gloss on it right now. What I'm gonna do is click on it, and I'm gonna change the color. For example, purple or pink. And when I do that, you can start seeing that the texture of the concrete is becoming visible and it's now purple. But we do not want a purple, we want to make green concrete. So I'm going to change it to green, fully green, if possible. And when I do, give it a little bit of a second to render out, we have green concrete over here. Now I click save. It's going to save the packages and such. And I'm going to close this editor. Now we have the texture over here, and we have the green concrete over here. I'm going to move this to items, since we want to keep everything clear and cleaned up. And I'm going to open the item once again. If this happens like this, it's because you do not have code connected to it. It's just a setup. So in this case, I always click on Open Full Editor. So I get a screen back again. And I'm going back to the static mesh. Since we are not altering the mesh, but just the texture, I'm going to go to the texture over here and type in tutorial, because I made a texture called green concrete. Now when I click this one, the image here changes, but if I go to viewport, there it is, green concrete. What do you think of that? Nice, isn't it? This is basically how you are going to add custom items to the game. You take something that exists and alter it. You can also make new stuff and add it to the game by custom modeling, but that's something for an entire different tutorial. So if I ever make that tutorial, by the way. So leave a comment down below, leave a like, subscribe. Let me know that you want more videos for modding for Hydroneer, so that I know that there is interest in it. So now we have made an item. We have set it up like we want it to. The only thing left to do is adding it to the game. So in this case, I'm going to HTML folder again, to hooks, and opening my tutorial mod file. Over here, I'm going to change this to tutorial mod start, so that we know in the log that our mod has started. We've already altered the rest of the information, but I do not want to add any store items at the moment. So I'm going to clear this list because I do not want store items to be done here right now. What I do want to do is add the item that we just made into creative. So in this case, I'm going to the 0 over here. I'm going to set it to tutorial, the tutorial green concrete item that we just made. And when I do, it's now added to the list and it's ready to be loaded into the game. I'm going to click save, compile, save, and make sure that it's all done. Now I'm going to close it up and I'm going to go to File, Cook Content for Windows. When you do this ever for the first time, it's going to take a huge amount of time. But if you have done it before, it's going to be way quicker. In my case, it's going to be extremely quick because I do a lot of coding, so I'm cooking a lot of time. So now it says already completed. So now the next thing we are going to need to do is get the Hydroneer mod tools active. Where do you need it for? Well, to be simple and clear about it, the mod tools are used to generate the pack file that the game needs to work. In the end, it's more handy to have it than not. Go to the Create Mods tab, and over here you can see my MKIA and with a big load of files. That's my mod. But we do not want MKIA, although I can show you how it... did I just do that? I just do that. I need to create it again. So click on Add Project. Then type in a name. In this case, tutorial mod. Same name as we used in game. Cooked assets. We click on the ... And we are going to the cooked folder. Then Windows No Editor. And then mining. And then click select folder. The output directory can be anything, but I most of the time use the Unreal Editor tools and the mods I put. I made my own folder for it. And then click Save. Now we have a tutorial mod here, but we have no files. Right click, Add, click on Yes, because we are going to add files and not a folder. Now click Content, HTML, Hooks, and select the two tutorial mod hook files that you created. Click on Open, and they are now added to the content folder. Now we're going to do the same thing again, but in this case I click No. Why do I click No? Well, since it's the first time we load in the files, I find it always easier to do the entire mod folder for the mod that I'm making. So in this case I go to Mods, and I click on Tutorial Mod, and click on Select Folder. What it does, it will look through all the files in those folders and add whatever exists. So this is basically the mod ready to use. So the only thing we now need to do is click Dev Express. When you do that, you will see tutorial mod copied packaged stage. Using the Dev Express button, it basically does all the actions for you. Now I made a world called tutorial, so let's just load that one in right now. Just a brand new world, as you can see. And I installed the creative menu, but if you're in creative, you can also get the creative, thing wand majigger. Click on tutorial mod, and there you have it, the green concrete. And when I place it, there we have it, green concrete. It's something to work with. It's green concrete. Yay! So that's basically how you add items to the game. You can use the items inside stores. So in this case, let me just fly to a store and show you quickly how it works. Let's just say that we have a store over here. And you want to add the green concrete like over here. Simply stand here and press S6. On the top of your screen you will see current location. X is Y and Z axis. Simply write them over to a piece of paper. Very handy. And when you write them over, you can enter them in the location on the same way that we spawned the item in creative menu, like adding the item to creative. We do the same thing with spawn store item. And with the coordinate location, you will enter these coordinates. take a look in game after you have done that. The item should be here. Even better, the item should be purchasable. And on top of that one, if the rotation or the position is not correct, simply adjust it. So a little bit of tuning, but in the end you will get an item in the rotation and place and etc. where you want to have it. So that's it for this mod tutorial. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all hopefully in the next time. Good luck!